This episode is brought to you by Levity Float Studio. Located in Squirrel Hill in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Levity Float Studio is the place to find your off button. I have a practice in meditation. I teach meditation, and I will tell you there is nothing like the experience of taking 60 minutes or 90 minutes for yourself in your solo float tank experience. It feels like the meditation lasts for 3 days. If you're thinking about it, you already want to try it, and you can use code MARTA, M-A-R-T-A, for $10 off any float or gift card. And for every friend you refer, you receive $15 in float credit. Plus, your friend gets $15 off their first float. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain, like spaciousness in your mind. Go find your off button at Levity Float Studio, and you can find them at levityfloatstudio.com. You're listening to Marta on the Move, hosted by Marta Napoleon Mazzoni. What keeps us moving, what keeps us connected, and how we travel as humans through this journey of life. Welcome. Welcome in. My name is Marta Napoleon Mazzoni. I'm an intuitive transformational life coach, grief recovery specialist, yoga meditation guide, and energy healer. And if you are joining me this evening, this beautiful evening, post a 1 in the comments if you've never been here before, if I know you, if you follow me often or you tune in, if you're a lurker or you comment on stuff, post a 2. And if you're here watching on replay, put hashtag replay. I love connecting with my audience. So let me know where you're from. Let me know what's happening for you. And I wanted to come live today. Oop, there we go. I wanted to come live today and pose a question of what does it mean to be a wild soul to you? Like just pausing, checking in. When I say the words wild soul, like what does that feel like to you? What do you think about? Just pausing and thinking about it. Cool. We've thought about it long enough. So, wild soul is something for me. I created a mastermind called the Wild Soul Sanctuary, and I was trying to come up with a name for it. It was originally called Women's Connection Circle, and that name kind of felt flat after a while. It really didn't encompass everything that we do in there, which is like so much, and it was just boring, honestly. And I wanted something more interesting, and Wild Soul came to me right away. But here's the thing. And I say this because I just wrapped up my last session of this container of the Wild Soul Sanctuary. So we went really deep today. We went into an activation. We went into some energy healing. We accessed, the ancestors of women that came before us, and people that we know in our lives, like all of these different things. And we celebrated. There was so much celebration on the call today. And I'm always left with feeling just so invigorated from hosting these. Like truly just like the amount of beauty that comes out is staggering. And I brought this forward to the group today of why it's called Wild Soul. And I wanted to share that here because to me, a wild soul is like the parts of ourselves that are untamed. They're intuitive, they're connected, like deeply, deeply connected to the rhythms of the earth and the spirit and the body. Like that's what it means to me. Like to be a wild soul, it's different than what you would think it would be. And this is what I spoke about today. So a lot of people, when they hear that, they maybe think something else. They might think it's untethered. They might think it's, chaos or recklessness to be a wild soul, but that's not the case. And that's why I love it. Like, so I wanted to go over this today because I think it's important. And I bring this up because I don't know if you listened to my last podcast. My last podcast was talking about how to be the bridge between relationships in your life. And I talk about a friend of mine, like one of my closest friends, and we have differing opinions on politics and things like that. And it's like, how do you move with that? Like how do we move with that? How do we keep these people in our lives? How do we love them? How do we have communication? Because if we don't have that, we don't have anything. We really don't. I'm like constantly reminded, of like certain stories of people that are oppressed going into the places and sitting down and hearing them out and having conversations and just listening to their side and being like, okay, all right, well, that's your truth. Here's mine. This is your truth and here is my truth. And so on the last episode of Mart on the Move, I talked about how we moved past that and how to kind of do that in your life with the relationships that you have in your life. Because a huge portion of my work is helping people lead themselves to remember their souls, their spirit, and have the best relationship with the people around them, with the one with themselves, their bodies, their spirits, their hearts, like that. A lot of that to remember to like turn on their light again, their creativity, like, oh, I'm alive after loss. Here I am, like I can see the beauty in front of me. I can feel my life again, and it's so when I call into wild soul, it's choosing authenticity over approval. It's like removing the shoulds in your life. It's allowing yourself to be seen. It's allowing yourself to be heard in like your rawness and your radiance. I was actually, I never re-listened to my podcasts ever. And I've been recording since 2014. And there was one that I recorded back in 2020, and it was in the midst. I happened to click on it and I was like, oh dear God. Yeah. I'm like, oh, but it was in the midst of my sister going through chemotherapy and having this awakening, right? Everybody has that moment where it's like, oh, I am waking up. Like something has been removed from my eyes. I'm not who I once was. I am now different. I am a different person. And that episode was called Owning Who You Are Now Instead of Who You've Been, or something like that. And I was knee deep in grief, in anticipatory grief over my sister, of her being sick and all of these things. And I was really struggling. I hadn't picked up the microphone in months. And I remember I'm listening to it. I'm like, oh my God, listening to speaking now about what it means to be a wild soul. Because in that episode, I'm talking about how my tastes are changing, and not food tastes, but the ways I want to spend my time, the things that fill me up. I'm talking about, taking more self-care and really getting into personal development and all that means, right? Like opening and kicking open the door to personal development. It's like, what is this world? And it really started with yoga. It started with wanting to be skinny. It started with, like not liking the way that I looked, not liking that I was over 200 pounds at one point, and shifting that. And that led me down a road of all of this. But it's this idea of what it means to be a wild soul. It's like remembering who you are. And I described it to the ladies today, and And I said to them that these masterminds, because that's what it is, this wild soul sanctuary that I've kind of created. It's where you get to talk, it's where you get to be seen, it's where you get to be heard. Like you practice your vulnerability. And I was vulnerable with them because I told them when I chose wild soul, it's still unraveling for me what it actually means. Because what it actually meant for me was, at the time, was imagining myself like naked in the woods, like breaking free and being like, releasing myself barefoot, running on moss, like all of these things. But, and, it actually, like being a true wild soul, is getting to those woods, getting to the forest, the magical forest, feeling free, right? Like having freedom, but then having a moment of realizing that you don't want to be alone. You don't want to be alone. You don't want to be all alone in the forest, feeling free. You want belonging. You want sisterhood. And so often that's actually really difficult with everything that's been put upon us. Comparison, judgment, sisterhood wounds, like all of these things. So when I'm speaking to them, I realized a huge wound that I had is a sisterhood wound. It's something I'm still working on in my life. And this wild soul is the ability to be with others. It's having the emotional intelligence to like be with other women, to celebrate other women, to lift them up and not tear them down, to hear their story and relate it to our own, to learn, to listen, because that's literally the only way we're going to move forward. Period. And it's just really not that talked about often. So that's what being a wild soul means to me. It doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't like what I'll tell you what not being a wild soul means to me, because I've done all this stuff. It doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean abandoning, your life. It doesn't mean running away from things. It doesn't mean numbing out with alcohol, like distraction after distraction after distraction. It doesn't mean shoving down your feelings. It doesn't mean hiding your tears. It doesn't mean, rejecting community. It's not about going at it alone. And I say this so much in my work, that it takes a village to heal after loss. It takes a village to find who you are, to remember who you are. You ain't going to do it alone. The books aren't going to get you. I mean, they're only going to get you so far. Trust me. I know. The walks you take are only going to get you so far. And it's this idea of how can we be together with one another? How can we sit with one another? How can we love one another? How? And the real answer is we have to love ourselves and love all the parts of ourselves. And, I feel like if there was $1 million question, everybody would kind of get that right, I think. But it's the actual practice of it. It's the actual healing that we have to do. It's the awareness and the mindfulness to see it and then to choose. How do we want to move forward? What kind of action do we want to take now that we've acknowledged that this is the thing? So today was just beautiful. It was beautiful. And I wanted to talk about that here because, I opened a free group called Soulfully Soberish, and it's for the awakening woman that's kind of like dusting off her relationship completely. Not dusting off, but shifting her relationship with alcohol, or has moved away from it completely and is awakening to more, like is awakening to spirit, is noticing that there is more out there, is more curious for deeper conversation and more connection, and finding themselves, this road of self-discovery that we fall on, or we choose to take the path. And so when I ask, like, what do you think it means to be a wild soul, it's pretty cool to check out your answers and see like how that kind of compares. It's like, do you look at it as being reckless and numbing out and distracting yourself or anything like that? Or do you look at it as being coming home, of waking up, of connecting in our community, of being a bridge in your community, of learning how to be the person to have the conversations with even other people, of being brave and going first so that you can have the better relationships, so that you can have the better community, so that you can have that strength within yourself and that remembrance within yourself of who you really are. That's what it means to be a wild soul. Wild soul. And I just wanted to celebrate today because that's exactly what we did in this last container. We celebrated one another. We lifted one another up. We talked and sent praise to one another while we shared our celebrations, able to hold that frequency, like, because that's just not something, it's just not something that we allow ourselves to do out of fear of being judged. Everybody's cool. The world is cool if you're sad, but if you are too happy, there is something wrong. They will knock you down. There is no way, because it's like, we're not taught that. We're not taught to hold that frequency of celebration. We're not taught to celebrate other people, even when we are feeling bad. Looking at it in inspiration and activation. Like, what's good for you is good for me. No, that's not really what we were taught. So we did that at the end of this closing container. And so I wanted to come on this evening and bring forth the wild soul. And I wanted to personally invite any woman out there that is looking for the space to practice. This is the space to practice being vulnerable, being seen without needing to be fixed, bringing your grief, and practicing, activating the truth of who you are, activating your throat chakra. We do energy clearing in there, facilitated by me. It's a whole vibe. It's a whole vibe. And it's really for the person that is looking for or is on the road of self-discovery. Like, they want to know more about themselves. They want to grow. They're like, ooh, I'm interested. Like, I'm interested in the most fascinating subject there is, me. I am the most fascinating subject. Everyone on the planet should be interested in the most fascinating subject, which is themselves. To get to know themselves, their triggers, the things that they can work on, the things that make them a better human, not for others. You start with you, and then it spills out. It spills out onto everyone else. Heather, oh my God. I was just talking about today. I was just talking about our container and how much love and what it means to be a wild soul. Thank you for being here. She was in my container. Yeah, beautiful. Like, the work we do on ourselves, we do for us. For us. Nobody else. We do it for us. I can't tell you how much I've spent on personal development. And my husband God love him. He's getting it now. But at first he was like, where is this money going? Are you going to get it back? Like, are you going to like make money from this? Like, where is this going? And I looked at him and I was like, I've literally already gotten what I spent because it made me a better person. Like, I had an aha moment that changed my life. That is worth anything that I just spent. Like, and he's like, oh, well, I guess, yeah. And I'm like, no, yeah. Like, it's the most fascinating subject that we have is ourself. And I am a person that truly believes that anything that I invest in myself is a guaranteed ROI because I find the meaning in everything. Everything. Literally driving home today, listening to Pocahontas, Can You Paint with All the Colors of the Wind, with tears streaming down my face, thinking back on my high school days when I was in the understudy for Pocahontas and I was terrified to sing that song if I had to. And I'm like listening to this song and the potency of it in my work and where we are in the world. And I'm just, the person next to me in the car is probably looking at me, this woman trying to sing, just tears streaming down her face. And it's beautiful. I'm able to have those moments of accessing my wild soul, those moments that tap me back into myself, my true self. Not my human, but like my spirit, my soul, that allow me to come alive and allow me to feel it all. To feel it all. That's what it is. That's what being a wild soul means to me. So I want to invite any woman out there that is thinking about it or is curious about it. I do something called an intuitive clarity call. It's $111. It's a one-on-one session with me where we like open everything up. It's like, whoop, what you got? What do you want to work on? What can I help you with? Tell me your story. And after that call, if you are curious and you're like, I want to know more about this and I want to see if it's a right fit for me and I want to see if we're a good energetic match, I don't know, you can use the cost of that towards your registration. So you can literally like whoop and send it over to your registration. So Wild Soul Sanctuary begins October 27th. The cost of it right now is $777 and it goes up next week to $888. So it goes up next Wednesday. So if you have any questions about it, if you're curious about it, if you're already curious about it, I would literally ask you what you have to lose. If you're going to find something out about yourself that you can embody and take with you, and imagine being literally held in a 6-week container. This one was actually 7 weeks because there was a holiday included. 8 weeks, actually, because it doesn't technically end until next week. We have a private Telegram group. I'm like putting journaling prompts in there. There's meditations in there. There's a movement session. Like, it's awesome. But being held in that energy for that amount of time literally changes you. Literally changes. I remember when I first started this personal development, and one of my mentors, like Melanie Anlayer, was talking about, she was saying, she's like, when I first started doing this, I literally did personal development every day, all day. And I can relate to that. After my sister died, and even right before it, it's been every day, all day. Because here's the thing, I've spent so much of my life doing things in a certain way. I've spent so much of my life having these habits. I spent so much of my life listening to everything that's out there, which is, it's kind of the opposite, right? I've spent so much of my life shaming myself. I spent so much of my life judging other people. I spent so much of my life saying yes when I meant no. I spent so much of my life people pleasing. I spent so much of my life in competition and comparison that you need the time. You need the immersive experience to unravel that. It's not going to be, I went to the gym one day and I worked out and I felt great, so now I'm good. No, that's not it. It takes time. It takes dedication. It takes practice. Like this stuff takes practice, and being around it, like being submerged in it, raises your frequency. It changes literally your DNA, but you have to stick with it. You have to stick with it. Like, of course you need to be in it deeply for that amount of time. When my mentor first said that to me, I was like, oh, I don't want to do this stuff for that amount of time. That's exhausting. I'll look pathetic. This is crazy. No. I love it. I do it because I love it. I understand that now. I do it because I've seen the success. I've seen myself change. I've seen my relationships change. I've watched miracles happen. My intuition is blown open, and I am so excited for like what's next. Dear Lord, I can't imagine me in 5 years because I'm not giving up on this. Ever. I won't stop. I won't stop. And people watching this are like, oh God, no, I'm not. If I've learned anything about myself, I'm resilient. But it's also this understanding that it takes being immersed in this to make a true, lasting impact. It's why we binge shows. There's nothing wrong with binging, Lord of the Rings. But then you decide to invest in your personal development and you're taking a 6-week course and you are committed to it and you're stepping into it and you're like, oh my goodness, I signed on with a 3-month mentorship with this coach. You're suddenly crazy. Yeah. No. If you want results, you have to be in them. You have to work for them. It makes sense to undo everything that your habits are. Like all of it, like the healing, it takes an immersive experience to do that. It takes ritual. It takes routine to make that impact. And that's why I've made the Wild Soul that long. So you can really settle in, right? Like really, 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 really settle in. The one woman that came, she didn't speak the first 2 sessions, and that's okay. One woman didn't come at all. She listened to the recordings. One woman came once and never came again. She was like, I can't do it right now, but I'm going to listen to the recordings. But there's still the value of it. Whether they came every day, like most did, or every week, like most did, or they came like here and there, they were held in the frequency and the energy of it for those entire duration of weeks. And so imagining what you will feel like if you are held in this frequency of how you can shift the way you feel, of how you can access more of that wild soul. And people ask me all the time, Brad, I just saw Bradley Stahl showing this to my wifey and her group of friends over for dinner tonight. Hello, group of friends and wifey. They all agreed the term wild does not agree with them. They seek closure, personal growth, peace, nothing wild about it. So go back and watch the beginning of this. Because to be wild is to question all of those things. Like it's to question numbing out. It's to question like shedding old habits that you have, It's the question of shedding, like judgment from others. It's that question. To be wild is to have like the best relationships in your life. To be wild is to cry proudly. To be wild is to actually, and this is a big one. Ladies, are you listening? To be wild is to take shameless self-care. Shameless self-care. That's what it means to be wild. That's the wild soul inside. It's not what we think it means, which is reckless and unhinged and chaotic. It's a different sort of wild. It's a wild of coming home. It's a wild, and wouldn't you agree, in times like this, that is distracted and numbed out and chaotic, right? Like literally chaos, turning against one another, hatred, violence. It's wild to seek your own truth. It's wild to find your own peace. Peace inside of yourself, like true peace inside of yourself, is a wild act. And we don't think about it that way, but it is. Truly, it's wild to come home to your soul, because so often you just don't see it. You don't. So if this is, and thank you for joining in. Hello, dinners. Love that. I love being around it. What are we having? What are we dining on? Thank you for being here. If you are listening to this and you are like, I want more of that. I don't know what that is, but I want more of that. There's a free group called Soulfully Soberish for women that I host on Facebook, and I'll drop the link in the comments. Wild Soul Sanctuary opens October 27th. And like I said before, you can book an intuitive clarity call with me. Regardless, you're going to get your money's worth, I promise. And the cost of it goes to your registration for Wild Soul Sanctuary. Or if you are looking for any sort of grief recovery work, if you're looking for unleashing creative joy, those programs are available too. But at the heart of all of this, I ask you to come back to that question about like what you think it means to be a wild soul. And maybe start to question like the things around you, the way you've always done things, the way you show up in the world, the people you spend your time with, the things that feed you. There's a wonderful book, I believe it's called the Wolves You Feed. And I love referencing this. And this is the last thing I'll say, I swear. I get on these labs and I want to say one thing and then I'm like, pfft. But we had my nephew this past weekend. We took him for his birthday and we showed him the town. We went hiking, we went to an improv show, we took him to the mattress factory because I wanted him to see art that didn't look like art. And to really think about things and show him our world. And so he stayed over all weekend, no phones allowed, like so great. And my husband just ate terribly the whole weekend. Like the whole weekend, he couldn't help himself. He got carried up in the energy. He got carried away in the energy, right? Have you ever had that where you're just like carried away in the energy of something? Well, he got carried away and he ate the worst things and then he felt terrible. And then he complained about it. Terrible. And I look at him and I'm like, it's the wolves that you feed. Like, look at what you're feeding. What are you feeding? What will make you feel better? What will make you feel nourished? What will make you feel peaceful? It's wild to stand in your own power when others are doing something different. Or others are doing the big thing that everybody else is doing and standing in your own power. That's also what it means to be a wild soul. So thank you for tuning in. You can find me and this podcast and the podcast where I talk about bridging the gap with friends and like how to talk to friends in this political climate. And it's a really funny one, I think, personally. It's on martaonthemove.com. And it'll also be on YouTube, it'll be on Spotify, and it's on Apple Podcast as well. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.